Why did we write There and Back Again? Well, right after seeing the second Hobbit film, I just felt, man, I should write the next song. And we loved the song that was in it so much by Ed Sheeran, and I just thought, you know what? I'm gonna write a song.
A little bit of a departure artistically, but still has the same kind of musical soul as the other stuff we've been working on.
It was pretty much instantaneous after we had seen The Desolation of Smaug that we wanted to write this song. I think the first real idea that popped into my head after, even just as the credits were rolling and listening to Ed Sheeran's song, was just like, I could do that.
I would hold on tighter if I could save you, but I still see a candle in the black hole you're in.
I'm really a huge fan of these books and these movies because people can say they're just fantasy, but there's so much more than that. There's so many depths and layers and in the characters that are things that we really feel as humans. Not necessarily do we have to be an elf or a hobbit to feel those things.
Lord of the Rings and Middle-earth and the works of Tolkien have meant so much to me and so much to my friends. And I first read the book, I first read The Fellowship of the Ring when I was 13, 14 years old. And, you know, I can remember going to the theaters and seeing the movie. I never wanted to leave the theater. I never wanted to get up. I never wanted to leave that behind because I just had to be there. I was enthralled by it. And it's just so awesome how the stories of Bilbo, Thorin, Gandalf, Frodo, Sam, the Fellowship, and the various others in Middle-earth. It's just so wonderful, the depth and the themes that run through all these stories.
I really like the idea of doing the song because it's something that Sean and Cinda are so very much into, you know, personally. You might not know it, but at this exact moment, Sean is wearing the White Tree of Gondor on his chest.
Yeah, it's pretty apparent. It's kind of been my my good luck charm, I guess you could say.
Something about the idea of the fellowship in The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and Tolkien's work is very applicable because it's one of those things that brings all of our friends together. We'll have these Hobbit or Lord of the Rings marathons, and we'll have these Lord of the Rings marathons, and we'll have a movie, and then we'll eat a Hobbit meal, and then we'll have a movie, and then eat, and it's great fun. It's a definite fellowship and bringing people together. And actually, for Sean's last birthday, we had the marathon on his birthday, and Sean's really good with the Smeagol voice too. So you know, it's always fun and entertaining.
So I guess I'm gonna have to prove this now. This is so embarrassing. Okay, well, I gotta get ready for it. It's a mindset.
We'll be nice to them if they'll be nice to us. Take it off of us! Then we take them to the windy stairs. Yes. And then up the stairs we go. And then we come to the tunnel.
I now understand why Andy Serkis had the Gollum juice. But, dude, seriously, you chugging that? God bless you, man. The Lord of the Rings trilogy had established a very specific style of music for the performer that was to perform the end credits song. And it was just so interesting to me with these last two Hobbit films and these last two cinematic representations of Tolkien's world of Middle-earth was how they chose to take such a contemporary approach to the song. And I just, the gears start turning and you get these ideas in your head, and it was pretty immediate after the movie that we had decided that we wanted to just see if we could come up with a song.
And at first all we had was this guitar part that Sean had, and that was it. And as I started hearing him play the guitar, and I just thought, that feels like going home. That feels like that sense of what it would be to have been gone for so long and finally come home again. I wrote the song as Bilbo because, well, the story is called The Hobbit. So when I thought of, well, what might he feel like? And I realized that anybody who has gone away from home and been through things has trouble relating to his fellow man. When writing this song as Bilbo, we wanted it to translate as very honest and very passionate, because The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings and everything Tolkien did was putting his whole heart into it.
So as we started working on the song, and the more that the grander vision became clear, we came to this idea of doing two different versions of the song, one more folky and more acoustic based instruments, and the other being more of a full band version, something that, the four of us, when we go out and play shows, that if people really like the song and they want to hear it, we'd be able to play it.
Something that we had come up with was the flute, and I hadn't played flute since high school, really. I mean, every now and then I would pull it out for a day, because I'd never written anything on a flute before.
I think the thing that has really kind of brought everything together has been what Nick has brought to the table. His orchestral background has been incredibly helpful with this.
I've also become interested in mallet instruments and hand percussion and these other facets of of the world of hitting things musically, and I think it all adds in together and makes for an interesting palette to work with, even for drum set things, because there are things you do to cymbals, in an orchestral setting that you don't necessarily do on a drum set very often, but I think work really well. That means that any small detail is important.
We're an independent band, so that means that we have to wear all of these different hats and do all of these things ourselves. So we wrote the song, of course we performed the song, but we engineered the song and recorded it, and Sean mixed it, and everything we do is us. We recorded everything for There and Back Again here in our own space.
It's been very impressive to see just the recording skills of the members of this band, because that's something that I was vaguely aware of, but of course hadn't seen in such a concrete way.
It was kind of cool to be able to come into our own space to work on the song, as opposed to having to go out somewhere and record the song and spend hundreds of dollars on studio time. Having our own space to do this in, and especially taking a break and sitting down in the living room, and there is a map of Middle-earth just like right there in front of my face, is like, if that's not enough inspiration to knock out this song, then I don't know what is.
So it's about 12:30, and I decided we're going to start recording by 1, and I've been waiting on this pop filter, and it just came. This is the Audix, what is it? PD133, and I hear that it is a great pop filter, and it doesn't inhibit the sound compared to other pop filters. So we're gonna check it out right now, and hopefully we get some good sounds. So, yay, new pop filter! As we started working on it, and that day, and then days later, and just coming to figure out the song as a whole, we started realizing maybe we should do 2 versions of this so that we have a more, almost a Hobbit-typed instrument version rather than our typical rock sound. So when it comes to recording, I'm more of the editor and Sean does the mixing. This one we wanted to do something different where we had more of a folky feel of the song and then a more rock version. I didn't care so much if it was in time, I just cared more about the inflection of how I was singing. I ended up just going with the take that felt the most meaningful rather than if it was perfect or not. You'll hear that it's not perfect, but I liked the emotion behind it.
I've always known the place of green pastures in spring, surrounded by everything I used to know.
Now, the other part that we felt was essential to the song was the guitar part, the arpeggiated part that you hear right at the beginning of the song, and the vocals. We felt those were the 2 central parts of the song, and in the 2 versions we made sure that we kept those ones in both versions. Everything else, like the drums and bass, we did 2 different styles with. I decided to kind of edit everything in the more folk version to the shaker feel and keep the feel of the drums rather than necessarily editing it perfectly in time. When you're editing, you may end up re-editing, if that makes any sense. And just to keep the feel as close to the vision for the song as you want it to be. So I'm gonna finish my edits, and I think Sean might talk to you about mixing.